and I found out that this district was one of the first in the country to desegregate without a court order. That sounded pretty important to me, and it started my dissertation research that after 7 years is still ongoing, but close to being finished. Black and white residents coalesced around the idea of school desegregation, finding common ground and uniting to elect a school board that would desegregate the schools.
Liberal, they're all the same thing when it actually boils down to it, because our last school board was considered a liberal school board, and when it got down to the real nitty-gritty, they just let all their racism hang out, just like your so-called conservatives. So they're still, it's all the same thing, they just label themselves.
5 years ago, a locally elected school board in Sausalito, California, with foresight and idealism, created one of the first deliberately integrated school systems in the United States. But Martin Luther King Jr. High has been in trouble ever since. North of San Francisco, in one of the wealthiest counties of the most prosperous state of the richest country in the world. Most of the people who are lucky enough to live here appreciate their good fortune. They have a reputation for wanting to share the good things in life, including decent education for black and white children alike. Given the best of intentions, this is just the kind of place where the dream should become a reality. This, after all, is the kind of place, the kind of life that most of the Western world, ourselves included, aspires to live. Almost all the local black children of the schools have their homes. To our eyes, the housing looks fair enough, well up to Garden City standards, but to the black people who live there, it is a ghetto. A 4-star deluxe ghetto, perhaps, but still a ghetto, if only by comparison with Sausalito.
They don't know what they're missing because they think, oh, well, we don't want any blacks in our class. Oh dear, here comes one. Hide. And in Martin Luther King School, it gives a chance for blacks and whites just to be together. And I think that's the way it should be.
Some people said that some of the teachers at the school were putting bad ideas into children's heads. Do you think that was true?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Sausalito has a large artists' colony of painters and musicians living in houseboats along the seafront. This is one of the few small towns in America where hippies are tolerated and able to walk the streets accepted by the citizens and untroubled by the police. It's still, despite everything that has been said, one of the most liberal and tolerant towns in the United States. To young Americans, the West Coast, and places like Sausalito in particular, have a powerful attraction because here they believe they'll be really free to live their own lives. This man, who makes candles and sells them to weekend tourists, goes by the single name of Sheldon. He's lived in Sausalito 4 years, far longer than most hippies, and believes he knows the town well.
I'm very, very frightened at real violence against members of the board and against members of the administration.
As far as I can tell, the superintendent isn't intended to be anything more than
Inevitably, a deeper division has now come to Sausalito. The coming school board elections have produced 2 conservative white candidates and 2 young black people who admit to being militants. Bob Fisher, Royce McElmore's running mate, feels that the present educational setup is just one aspect of a system designed to keep the black man down.
Immediately, but there was then something called token blacks. So everybody had to have their token black. But the superintendent said, how do you feel being a black woman here in the office with me? I said, I don't. I'm here to teach, and I want to be hired for my abilities. Well, when parents found out that I had gotten hired, they were afraid. They said that my speech wasn't proper enough, or that I was even smart enough to teach their children. And it ended up that was the year that the desegregation program between Mill Valley and Marin City was begun. And so Mill Valley staff thought it would be great if I accompanied the children from Mill Valley to Sausalito, that would be a great thing. But it wasn't. I was actually called an Uncle Tom because I was coming over with the Whiteys as a do-gooder, and because of disorganization, really, during that time, it just wasn't planned properly. And so everything was sort of on the fly. And it ended up not being the kind of year that I think most children and parents expected.